What made the "weird kid at your school" weird? The Vine where a kid goes, "I have the power of God and I'm on my side," and screams like a banshee went to my middle school. He was maybe 4 grades underneath me, but his weirdness turned him into one of the most popular kids in his grade. Kid smelled like he bathed in cat pee every day. Hissed at anyone who came near him. Used to run through the hallways from class to class. Threatened to kill me in a computer lab because I used Internet Explorer instead of Firefox. I'm on his side about not using Internet Explorer. She was a furry who tried recruiting people into her newly founded furry religion where the type of furry you were spiritually was based on your birthday, like some freaking astrology BS. She also had a boyfriend who was into the whole furry thing, but in a really weird sexual way, cause they'd make out on the floor or in the lounge areas and bark/growl at each other, and it just made everything uncomfortable for everyone. Edit. This happened in my first year of college, if that adds to the weirdness. Teachers had to make a public announcement banning people from making out and doing all that romantic stuff on campus because of how bad it got. There was a kid in my school who was obsessed with Mario. He had Mario sweatshirts and notebooks and a Mario backpack. Well, someone figured out that if you told him Mario is dead, he'd flip, scream and cry, "Damn, you know he's not," every time. He got in trouble multiple times for attacking kids who said anything about Mario dying, even if they were talking about in the context of Smash Brothers or something. This happened 8th, 10th grade, then I never saw him again. Had one girl in my year who had a weird obsession with our physics teacher. Then in a lesson learning about spinning forces, she asked if she could show a cool video to the class. He said yes. The video was of her spinning on a pole in her underwear. When he sent her out, she was yelling the whole way, "Why are you saying that pole dancing is sexual? Cause that's sexist." She wore butt-skimming skirts with fishnet tights and corsets on non-uniform day as well. Always got sent straight home. They ended up expelling her when we were about 17. Kid always wore a zoot suit. Every day. Not that weird, I guess. But back in high school, weird as frick. Edit. Some more details. These were not Salvation Army/hand-me-downs quality. This kid wore nothing but high quality zoot suits with a chain and nice shoes to match. Every once in a while he had a chrome-tipped black cane. He had bright colored ones, pinstriped ones, dark blue ones, and pure black ones. Didn't see him with the hat very often though. This was in 2005/6. I think he won best dressed in the yearbook. I don't have one to confirm though. Mustard boy. I'll never forget him. He would cover his lunch tray in mustard. Chicken nuggets. Mustard. Mexican pizza. Mustard. Breakfast for lunch. Mustard. It didn't matter what it was, he would drench it in mustard. He wasn't doing it just to make a mess of his lunch tray. He always finished his mustard food. Edit. Mexican pizza was a hexagon-shaped pizza with sausage and shredded taco seasoned cheese on top. It wasn't at all Mexican, but that's what it was called. He would jack off in the middle of class. He didn't actually pull it out, but he would aggressively rub the side of his pants and his face would get really red while staring at the girls in the class. Everybody noticed, but a word was never spoken about it. I knew a kid that would do that during math class while reading a book about kayaking. It was really distracting. Oh yeah, look at that hot red kayak. He was on a hair trigger, would snap and threaten people. Suspended multiple times. 2 memorable incidents were when we freaked out at an art teacher, went to his locker, and came back with a bullwhip. He made that thing snap and sent everyone running. She barricaded herself in the supply room. Another time someone made the mistake of teasing him about something and everyone laughed, and he pulled a knife and screamed, "Who wants to be the first to die?" He was expelled, and I'm not sure what became of him. Imagine sitting in class thinking the weird kid is gonna retrieve his gun, but instead brings a freaking bullwhip. You went to school with Indiana Jones. The art teacher complimented his painting by saying, "Nice work." We should display your painting in the library, and that's when he snapped and screamed it belongs in a museum. I had a few. One was obsessed with Asian culture, kind of random, since we lived in a very rural community in Canada with little connection to the outside world, let alone to Asia, and would lose her mind if anyone said anything remotely negative about it. It started out as mainly just a fixation on Pokemon, anime, and K-pop, but quickly branched out to all things Asian. She once hit me with a textbook because we were discussing M Butterfly in class, and I said that I didn't like it. This was at age 16. Another kid used to pick his nose until it bleed and then go home because he had a nosebleed. He would also eat the boogers. We were all surprisingly chill about that part of his personality. The thing we all hated most about this kid is that he would lie about the most random stuff. Like he would deny that he got hit when playing dodgeball or caught when playing tag on the playground. One time my neighbor made me a little inukshuk glued to a piece of driftwood and I brought it to school to show the class. This kid picked it up in front of everyone, immediately dropped and broke it, and then denied that it was him that broke it, even though we had all literally watched him do it. He cried when we continuously called him out on it. This was also at age 16. Edited to added that the lying kid one time broke his arm and came to school in a sling. The next day the sling was on the opposite arm. Even the teacher called HM out on that one. I had a girl hiss at me in 5th grade. Hadn't seen her in about 16 years. Recently went to a party she was attending. She asked if I remembered her and said boy howdy, she hissed again. I always knew she was weird. So she was 25 to 26 when she hissed at you the second time. Yes. I had a locker above his and he always yelled something stupid. The most common phrase was I got balls in my face. He also somehow brought koala poop to the school. Edit. There was a possibility that it really wasn't koala poop, but it was small brown pellets in a small bag with a koala on it. I really want to believe that this happened somewhere that koala poop is very difficult to obtain. It's difficult enough to obtain in Australia as it is. My weird kid stood up at an assembly and asked the vice principal if she knew what hentai was. Edit. She did not comment on whether or not she did. He was just told to sit down because the students immediately started laughing. Sorry for the unsatisfying ending. My little sister was really into manga when she was younger. I was 14 years older than she was. My wife and I took her to a bookstore, and for whatever reason I had the word hentai in my mind. I asked one employee if he had any books on drawing hentai, that my 8-year-old sister was really into it and wanted to learn how to draw it. Dude looked at me really weird. It then dawned on me what I said. I immediately redacted that statement and screamed manga, I mean manga, she wants to draw manga. Not my proudest moment in life. He would have full conversations, arguments, and sometimes physical altercations with a brick column in the middle of the cafeteria. Who usually won? I don't think anyone won those. They usually made up though, as they would chat like normal the next day. That poor column was stuck in an abusive relationship for at least 4 years. His dad started a house fire insurance scam and died in the fire. This was around 6th grade. That messed him up a bit. The kid would tap his feet and hands uncontrollably, and he talked about shooting people. Oh shit, this is actually really freaking sad. Did he get help? By the end of high school he had a group of friends finally. After high school he joined the military. Not sure where his life went after that, hopefully he is successful and healthy. They thought they were an immortal vampire, and walked around talking and acting the part. Yeah, I knew a homeschool kid who was convinced he was Spider-Man. Like he'd try to climb up walls and flick his wrists to fling web. If you didn't play along he would run crying to his mom. Edit. My mom was casual friends with his mom, so that's how we met. I vaguely remember other experiences with this kid. I didn't get along with him, that's putting it nicely. We basically hated each other, but my mom forced me to go to his birthday party. We had to play hide and seek, but were told by his mom that we had to purposefully let him find us. He also had an older brother that would run off into a corner and cry over the slightest provocation. He wrote his crush's name on the wall in the bathroom with his own shit. They caught him brown-handed. Also would freak out if someone said werewolf. He was caught eating berries off of a tree branch in a compost trash can in 5th grade. He'd act feral around everyone else, but if you got to know the kid, he was actually pretty down to earth and cool. In middle school around 6th grade I tried getting to know him better and found out he might have had some kind of multiple personality disorder and was grateful for someone who didn't judge him that much. I'd try my best to not get him to do stupid crap. He was later expelled for what everyone said was biting a teacher. I saw him once during high school and he got really freaking hot too, seemed way chilled out. When I asked about why he left, he said he wasn't allowed to talk about it, but was getting help, so that's always good. Gabe, if you're out there, I hope you're doing well. His go-to excuse for not having homework finished was that he was traveling, even though he was at every class, and he never paid attention to anything but his fidget spinner, unless he was talking. The way he spoke, he knew everything there was about creative writing, yet his submissions consisted of plots ripped off directly from anime. This was in a college class. I don't think you understood him. When he said traveling, he meant through time. He keeps going back to the past, writing great stories to submit for class, and before he returns to the present he trips over an uneven brick and his original story flies out of his hand and is found by a Japanese man who turns it into an anime. Probably. Homie. This sounds like an anime plot. There was a kid at my high school who never talked. It wasn't that he couldn't speak or that he only spoke to his close friends, he just wouldn't speak to anyone. Teachers didn't call on him because they knew he didn't talk. When a substitute would come in and try to call on him, there was always some kid who would have to explain, Ricky doesn't talk. If you asked him a question, he would just look at you. It was weird and some people would take offense to his silence. But eventually everyone realized that was just his thing and rolled with it. The only time he spoke was when we had to present individually in class. On those days people would get really excited if they had a class with him, because hearing him talk was like seeing a unicorn. Edit. A lot of people have mentioned this possibly being a case of selective mutism. I looked up the diagnosis, and it seems like a good match. There were also rumors from kids who rode the bus with him who said that once he got off the bus, he would meet up with his neighborhood friends and, presumably, talk to them. When he did present in class, he didn't have a weird voice or any strange vocal qualities. In hindsight, she wasn't so weird. She just marched to the beat of her own drum. She was very overweight and had a lot of health issues, including more than one skin condition, so people saw her as gross and they avoided her. I can remember all the way back in 1st or 2nd grade when we did dancing in gym class, no one wanted to be her partner because her hands were covered in scaly rashes. But she was smart and she had an odd sense of humor, and despite how everyone treated her, she was confident in herself and never hid any part of her personality. She was always the first to speak up in class and she challenged other people's opinions so readily. But at the same time, she was constantly falling asleep in class, and she snored so loudly. I remember she sat behind me during our rap exam for American history, and for the life of me, I could not focus on my test because she was breathing so loud. She was incessantly bullied, to the point of being pity voted onto prom court. She had one real friend. And then a year after we graduated, she died completely unexpectedly. I remember waking up to go to work one morning and my best friend had texted me that she was dead, and I was absolutely shocked. Apparently, she had been out to dinner with her aunt, and on her way back to the table from the bathroom, she collapsed and they couldn't resuscitate her. They did an autopsy and couldn't confirm a cause of death. Her mother died about a week after she did, and they had a joint funeral. Probably the saddest funeral I've been to. The worst part about her death was that I lived in a really small town, so it's all anyone was talking about for weeks. Her biggest bullies were some of the loudest voices. Some people from my graduating class held a memorial service for her where they sent off paper lanterns, but I couldn't get myself to go because it was full of all the people who made high school miserable for her. I couldn't bear to listen to them talk about how great she was, how beautiful she was, when they never held those sentiments when she was alive. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, you can check another video.